that it has helped many. And because we know that it has helped many, because people have reached out back to us, thanking us, collaborating with us. And if you want to know more information or want to be part of Let Us Talk It, please visit our website, LetUsTalkIt.com. And we even do webinars with our youth. Empowering the next generation is our goal. And doing so, we have over 50 youth who work with us. I mean, it's free for all, and they join on their own to get their the topic out there in the community, what they are passionate about. So we have two groups of youth session, one younger youth group and another older youth group from 6 to 11 and the older from 12 onwards. So we do a proper prep sessions every Tuesday and Thursday, and then we go live on Saturday, Friday and Saturday respectively. And if you want to have your kid join the webinar, the youth webinar, you can even register going to our website, letustalkit.com/youth, and register them there. Having said that, we are ready for our topic today. And our topic is really two very strong topics, I would say, different, but if you actually go ahead, you can link both of them. So the first topic we have is the 8 worst attitudes to never have. So now you'll know the right attitude that can lead one to success and the wrong ones that leads to failure. So for that, we will be this topic will be discussed by Nisha. And knowing a little bit about Nisha, apart from being very particular and prompt in her responses and being very professional, she's also a performance coach and founder of PCM Training Academy. And in her expertise, she has skill training, performance enhancement, HR strategic planning and execution to large and small corporates. And she has been honored by the Ministry of Skill Development and Industries, Z24, Business World, British Council, Business Jito by Dr. Ujjwal Patni. And as for her, she has her MBA from Tennessee University, BULATS from Cambridge University, and Performance Management from Harvard. And when you have so much of accolades going with you, it's, you have that mindset also, and she guides and empowers parents of special needs children as a community service. Absolute honor to have you, Nisha. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Juran. That was such an amazing introduction, and I feel honored, privileged to be here at your platform and connecting with your audiences. Thank you so much, Let's Talk It, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on one of my very dearest and closest topic on attitude. So great, brilliant. We are all set to talk today about something which actually, frames our thoughts. I'll be sharing with you about, one very beautiful line which says that it's not, things that happen to us that decides our destiny. It's about how we respond to them that actually determines our destiny. I totally believe in this thought that, there are situations, good situations, bad situations. Each one of us face so many of these situations, and it never happens as such that, we do not have challenges in our life. In fact, you just simply cannot determine what's going to happen the next moment. Given that a case, it's not actually that, there are some people who do not face tough times, but it is actually how they respond to those times that would decide as to what will be the result, what will be the outcome at the end of the day, and how their future would be, how secure their future would be, how progressive they would be able to be. So that's the bottom line. Talking about today's topic, I would like to quickly share my screen here. I hope that everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes.
Great. So yes, so we're talking about the worst attitudes. Now, the reason why I have picked up this topic, like, there are a lot of ways to talk about attitude, and the best way to talk about anything is to talk about positive. But given the current scenario, most of us really are addicted to negativity, and we all know what we really need to do. But the most challenging part is being aware about what we really should not be doing, so that we are able to overcome that. So in today's topic, more than talking about what is a positive attitude and what is the right way to think about things, I'd be rather focusing on those attitudes which actually are detrimental to our growth, those attitudes that does not allow us grow, those attitudes that act as mental roadblocks and the real blocks to our success. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Right, so as you could see on my screen, you would see a beautiful quote that says that our life depends on the way we think things are and not the way they are. So most of the times it happens that situations are just the same, they are just the same, but how we look at those situations differs. Let me share with you a small little example here. I'll share with you one experience of mine some time back. This experience is about a time when it was heavily raining here in India, and we had a client of ours who had who had their employees actually working from home. They were into cold calling, and they were supposed to sell a product, and that was a vacuum cleaner, and they were to go to the prospects houses and sell them. Now, since it was raining very heavily, I'll share this experience of mine wherein one of these employees actually opened up the window and just looked outside and said, "Oh my God, it's a very tough and very sad, bad storm, and what a bad way to start a day. It's so sad that I would not be able to actually make up to my appointments because it's raining heavily like cats and dogs, and I'm totally screwed up, and my targets won't be achieved." And he was terrible. He was feeling terrible about this situation. Um, in the same scenario, there was the same one another employee, of the same organization, the same city, the same location, who also looked out of the window, saw the same storm. And guess what he said? He said, "Oh, amazing, it's raining so heavily, and it's such a great opportunity that I would find everybody home. All the decision makers would be home, and I would be able to make a closing so quickly, so easily, as compared to people telling me, oh, I'll have to ask my husband, or I'll have to ask my wife, or I will have to ask somebody who's not present at home." But then today there would not be such an excuse, and that's how he took up the call, and he got decked up with required the raincoat and the umbrella and everything that he would require to actually face that situation and go ahead and close the deals. Now, given such a scenario, the point here is that it's actually not about what actually the things are, the situation that is. It's about how you think that you can, make out of it. It's how you respond to that situation that makes the difference about, how it's going to end up. So, with that note, we are going to talk about certain attitudes that actually should be avoided. Once we are aware about these attitudes that are a total no-no, it will take us a long way. To help you understand with this, I want to give you a small little example about a honeybee and a housefly. Now, why the reason I'm talking about these two insects right now in here is that let me share with you that we all understand what a honeybee does, right? Talking about the approach of a honeybee. Now, what is the honeybee actually looking for? So a honeybee is looking for nectar, right? So what does it do? So it goes from a flower to flower, and all it is looking for is the juice, the right juice that it requires to create the honey. Now, imagine a scenario wherein you see a beautiful garden which is full of amazing roses and different types of flowers. You name a flower and it's there. The honeybee would fly from one flower to the other. Given another scenario which is full of dirt and trash, and yeah, there are a few flowers around, so what do you think would the honeybee actually be looking for? So it's very obvious that whether there's a lot of clutter out there, there's too much of trash out there, but still the focus of the honeybee is going to be flowers. It will look for flowers, it look for, the nectar that it wants to build, for the honey it requires, and then it'll go ahead and get back to work. So it doesn't matter what is around what matters is where the focus is. Similarly, if you talk about a fly, what would be a fly looking for? So given a piece of a beautiful, neat and clean, or a yummy cake, a sugary cake, and given if there's a shit next to it, what do you think is the fly going to pick up? Right, it's definitely going to pick up the trash, the shit out there. So here is it, that's exactly what we need to understand, that it's basically the type of mentality, it's the kind of attitude, it's something that we focus at. So if we are looking at something like the nectar, we would be finding nectar, but if we are looking at something very negative, that's what we will be finding out. So given that a scenario, what are we focusing at? If we are focusing at certain things which are totally negative around us, then definitely our response to it is going to be negative. So let us understand that this is totally a matter of choice, whether you accept it or not. It is totally a matter of choice as to how you want to look at things. So things are going to be the way they are, but it is only about how you decide to choose to how to respond to it, to how to focus at it, to how to look at it. So given that scenario, I'm going to share with you the first danger attitude, the first attitude that we really need to avoid. Now, just to help you, remember some of these 8 attitudes I'm going to talk about, I'm going to call it as deep walk. So it's easier for me also to recall. Deep walk, wherein I'm talking about DIIPWOC. So talking about the first attitude. The first attitude that I'm going to share about is doubt. Now, doubt is something that most of us, when we encounter something that we've not done before, we have a doubt. Now, this doubt would begin with self-doubt, like whether I will be able to make it, whether I'll be able to do it or not. Now, the point here is that given that self-doubt, how am I going to be able to take this as a challenge? How am I going to be able to go ahead and deal with this? So given that doubt, do you think that I would really be able to make the maximum of myself? Do you think that I will be able to give the best of myself? Now imagine this scenario that you have a friend of yours with whom you're very comfortable talking to, and you're sharing your ideas. And given another scenario wherein there is a group of like 1,000 people sitting in the audience, and you have to share the same idea with those people who are like strangers to you, and you have a doubt, oh my god, would I be able to make it really good? So the moment I have this doubt, given both of these scenarios, where do you think you'd be able to do better? So if your attitude is about doubting yourself, if you have an attitude about doubting about what would happen, what would go wrong, what if this doesn't happen, when you have this kind of a doubt, you would not be able to give your 100%, because most of the times our brains would get into a shutdown mode or a standby mode, where it freezes our thought process and doesn't allow us to be creative enough and take up risks. So the first attitude that we really need to change is doubting, because you will never know unless you take a dive and do what you really want to. So if you keep doubting whether this will be a success or a failure, then probably you will never know how it actually tastes unless you go ahead and try it out. The second attitude which we really need to be aware of, which is not right, is indifference. Now, what do I mean by indifference? Indifference here, I mean, is not really bothered about what's happening around me. So if somebody comes and says that, oh my god, there's a major short circuit in the next door, I mean, how does that matter to me. I'm already too occupied, too busy. Now, if there's some problem happening in the organization, and there is a discussion happening about certain challenges at work, and about the major setbacks that would be possibly coming down our way around a couple of months later, and we decide to not react to it at all, and just staying indifferent doesn't really matter. Or say, for example, somebody comes to you and says that you need to do it this way instead of that way, and you say, okay, sure. And somebody comes up and says, hey, you're doing it wrong that way, you better do it that way. Perfect, fine. Somebody comes and says that you are a fool. Oh, I understand that. Somebody says, oh, you are brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. So it doesn't really make a difference, and I'm just happy with the way things are. So if you do not have that spark within you, if you do not have that fire within you to go ahead and make that difference, and whatever is given to you, you accept it, and you are happy with things that are happening around you, then probably you're not really a player in that stadium. You are just a spectator, just a cheerleader who's there to clap hands on people making certain achievements and making things really happen, and you doing nothing about it. So that's it. That's an attitude that we really need to avoid. The next attitude is indecisiveness. Indecisiveness is not making a decision and doing something about it. So it's like, my favorite quote that says that stop hatching your problems, right? So there are times wherein, a hen sitting on a couple of eggs and hatching them, what would happen? So yeah, definitely she would be hatching chickens out of it in a couple of days or weeks or so. But then similarly, when I'm talking about hatching the problems, it's like sitting on your problems for too long and doing nothing about it. So when you do nothing about your problems and just sit and hatch them, you will multiply them. And given that indecisiveness, you are actually postponing your problem, and there is a definite possibility that you would be multiplying them. So given such a scenario, it is very important that you make a decision. Either do it or decide to not do it, because by not deciding, you are actually making a decision to not to decide. And when you do not decide about certain things, you are actually multiplying your problems. So make a decision so that you have a clarity in your mind, and your growth could be manifested well in your mind itself. The next is pessimism. Now, pessimism is something that we have all experienced, maybe with our own selves or people around us, because these days, with the kind of social media content that we are all being fed with, we totally understand that, where does pessimism really get into us? So yeah, so basically pessimism is about talking about the poor thinking habits, that actually keeps people poor. Now, what do I mean by poor thinking habits? By poor thinking habits, I mean that if I keep thinking negative, that, oh my God, what if this doesn't happen? Oh my God, what if that happens? So what if this happens? What if this doesn't happen? This will never allow me to take up risks. This will never allow me to take up challenges. And given such an attitude, I would never be able to look at the brighter side of life. So if I really want to grow, I really need to give up on pessimism. The next is W, that stands for worry. Now, worry is something that we do, wherein we have an unimaginable situation. So there's my favorite quote that I connect with worry. Worry directly connects with fear. So when you are fearful, when you are scared about certain things, you start worrying. For fear, I say